Hey SACCAP students, and welcome. In this explainer, we're diving deep into the psychological side of coaching, and we're using Peter Bluckert's amazing work as our guide. We're going to look at what separates a good coach from a truly great one, and here's a hint. The secret is learning to master what's really going on inside your client's head. Let's get into it.
You know the feeling, right? You've got a client, and they just seem to be spinning their wheels. They tell you their story, again. They agree on all the action steps, but deep down you know nothing's really going to change. They're stuck. And if you're being honest, you probably feel a little stuck too. So what is really going on here?
Well, more often than not, the client is completely focused on what Bluckert calls the outer game. You know, the external stuff, the difficult boss, the impossible project. And look, that stuff is important, but focusing only on that, it's like staring at the tip of an iceberg. The real issue, the thing that has all the leverage, is hidden way down below the surface. And that brings us right to the heart of it, the inner game. This is your client's internal world. And trust me, this is the arena where the most powerful, lasting change really happens. So what is this inner game? Well, think of it as this invisible landscape inside all of us. It's where our biggest fears and our deepest self-limiting beliefs hang out, right next to our greatest hopes and our untapped potential. And this is the key part. This inner world is what's secretly driving all of our actions out in the real world. The link between that inner world and our outer actions is super direct, and it follows a really simple pattern. First, a thought happens. It could be a belief or just an interpretation of something. That thought immediately triggers an emotion, maybe fear or anger or insecurity. And that emotion, well, that's what drives our behavior. This little sequence is the key to everything.
Okay, so as a coach, your job is to get really good at listening past the story your client is telling you and hearing the unhelpful thinking that's hiding underneath. Let's look at a few examples from Bluckert's work so you can hear what this sounds like.
So, meet Danny. On the surface, his story is about needing to be more assertive. But listen to his inner game. His core belief is challenging equals conflict. That thought triggers fear, and his behavior, total avoidance. He's stuck being Mr. Nice because his inner game is calling all the shots.
Or how about Sarah? The lens she sees the world through is one of threat. Everything is a potential battle. This thought puts her into battler mode, and the result is a ton of unnecessary conflict, which she then regrets. Her actions are a direct result of that threatening lens she's looking through.
And then there's Barry, the classic high achiever. His story is about stress, burnout, overwork. But his inner game reveals this really devastating core belief. You're only as good as your last achievement. That single thought creates this constant feeling of insecurity, which then fuels a nonstop, exhausting drive for perfection. He's trapped in a loop created entirely by his own thinking.
Okay, so we can hear these unhelpful patterns. Great. But how do we actually help a client change them? See, the goal isn't just to spot the flawed thinking. It's to help the client see it for themselves. This is where we move from just diagnosing the problem to actually creating a transformation.
The key here comes from the work of a developmental psychologist named Robert Kegan. He takes this powerful idea, you might have heard it called Kant's paradigm, which is basically that we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. We're all looking through invisible filters. Kegan's breakthrough was applying this to personal growth. He describes this incredible moment when you go from being trapped inside your filter to being able to actually see it. He calls this the shift from subject to object.
And this is such a critical distinction. When a belief is subject, we are completely fused with it. We don't even know it's a belief. For Sarah, the world is threatening wasn't a thought, it was just reality. But when that belief becomes object, she can step back from it. She can hold it, look at it, and ask, hey, is this actually true? Is this helping me? She's no longer trapped by the lens, she can finally see the lens. Kegan uses this fantastic metaphor. He calls this process of turning subject into object building psychological muscle. And it's so perfect. Every single time a client makes this shift, they get mentally stronger. They become more self-aware, better at handling complexity, and way more in control of their own lives.
So, what's our job in all this? How do we as coaches help our clients with this mental workout? Well, our role is super specific, and it's incredibly powerful. We're not there to judge their thinking. We're there to be a guide that helps them see it for themselves.
Bluckert quotes Peltier here, and it's such a great reminder of the unique spot we're in. Think about it. A boss, a partner, a friend, they usually can't challenge someone's core beliefs without making it personal. But a coach can. We have this special permission to hold up a mirror to a client's thinking in a way that almost no one else in their life can.
Which, of course, leads to the million-dollar question, right? How do we use that permission without making the client shut down? How do you offer a challenge that actually opens them up, instead of making them defensive?
The whole secret is in your stance. It's not about saying you're wrong. It's about adopting an attitude of pure, genuine curiosity. You just reflect back what you hear. So, it sounds like you have a rule that says if you challenge someone, it will always end in conflict. Is that right? You ask these gentle, curious questions that poke at their worldview until they themselves start to see it as a thing they can look at, instead of a thing they are.
All right, let's pull all this together. We've covered a lot of ground here, moving all the way from the surface-level story right down to the core of what creates real, lasting change for our clients. This journey really is the essence of transformational coaching. It starts with hearing their story, the outer game, but you're listening deeper for the inner game, those beliefs driving everything. Then your key move is to help them make that shift from subject to object, building their psychological muscle. And the end goal? You're empowering them to become their own coach long after they're done working with you.
And honestly, learning to work with a client's inner game, this is the leap. This is what takes you from being a pretty good coach who helps people solve problems to an outstanding coach who helps people fundamentally change their lives. So I'll leave you with a question to carry into your next coaching session. As your client tells you their story, don't just listen to the words. Try to listen for the world behind the words. What is that unseen lens, that unquestioned reality that you can help them finally, truly see?